There is no better way to defeat gyms than using fighting-type Pokemon, so today that's exactly what I'm setting out to do. This is my attempt at a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Black 2 using only fighting-type Pokemon. Snowflakes fall on the quiet city of Aspertia, and my mother returns home to tell me the good news, that I'll be receiving my first Pokemon. I head outside and meet up with my friend, take in the beautiful scenery, and enjoy a painfully awkward moment of silence with Bianca. For this run, I'm fortunate enough to be able to use one of the starter Pokemon, although Balrog the Tepig won't become a fighting type until it evolves. For the time being, I'll have to get through the early part of the game with Ryu the Riolu, who quickly evolves into a Lucario after an intense cardio session. As you can imagine, Cheren and his normal type Pokemon do not have a good time trying to deal with Ryu. Even without access to a fighting type move other than counter, his part steel type and high base stats make the first gym feel trivial. After some riveting gameplay of clicking quick attack over and over, I make my way to Verbank City and eavesdrop on some awkward family drama. With the level cap up to 18, I'm now free to bring Balrog back to the team after evolving her into a Pignite. She's going to have to wait to make her gym debut though, because Roxie and her poison types are completely walled by Ryu. All it takes is a couple of workups, then it's a clean sweep with return to earn us the second badge. With 2 gym leaders down and the nightmare that is Pokestar Studios out of the way, we're ready to head over to the big city. Before setting sail, Hugh demonstrates one of the side effects of steroids, anger issues. Eventually he calms down and we're off to Castelia City, where I pick up some extremely useful items as well as a new team member. North of the city, I catch Sagat the Scraggy, whose dark typing is going to come in handy against any psychic type Pokemon we encounter along the way. Before I can face the next gym, I get dragged down into the sewers chasing after Team Plasma. While down here, I find an opening to Relic Passage where I encounter Zangief the Timber. Her brave nature would have been enough of a reason to celebrate on its own, but she also happens to have the Guts ability, which is incredible. She is going to be very important to the success of this run, and it would be an absolute tragedy if anything were to happen to her. For now, the only one experiencing a tragic outcome is Burgh. Balrog is able to literally roll through his team of bugs after setting up a defense curl and taking out Swadloon with a 4x super effective flame charge. Her leftovers keep her healthy while she crushes both Dwebble and Leavanny with increasingly powerful rollouts, earning us the 3rd badge with ease. With each gym we conquer, my team of fighters gets stronger and stronger. Even this weird stranger can see that we're exuding confidence. That confidence and our muscles only continue to grow as Zangief evolves into a girder. Just past Nimbasa City in the Lost Lorn Forest, I'm able to add another beefcake to the team, Ken the Heracross. Sadly, Ken doesn't have guts, but he's still pretty great. Everyone knows that you need to take a rest day every once in a while, so before taking on the 4th gym, I go on an incredibly awkward date with a woman who clearly has some strange kinks. Apparently, she's also a big Alex Jones fan. Needless to say, there won't be a second date. Now that we're all rested up, we're ready to take on the first gym leader that actually requires the use of a few brain cells. I lead with Ken against her flying rodent, knowing he can easily tank a Volt Switch with his high special defense stat. This brings in Zebstrika, who threatens to outspeed with a flame charge, but Ken lands a Rock Tomb on the switch. This allows him to outspeed and go for a dig, and thanks to the Rock Tomb damage, it does enough to get the KO on her Zebra. Flaffy comes in, but Ken once again outspeeds with a dig and is able to get another KO. Her Emolga comes back in, but it really doesn't stand a chance. After a weak pursuit, it's hit with a Rock Tomb, then Elesa wastes some time using a Hyper Potion, and Ken lands a few more Rock Tombs in a row, which is a bit of a miracle. With one final unnecessary crit, Ken finishes off the Emolga and we earn our 4th gym badge. As if our egos couldn't be any bigger, Elesa escorts us down the runway and the crowd is chanting my name. We're as strong as we've ever been, and yet, we're just getting started. If you want to help boost my confidence even more, please consider subscribing to the channel. About 90% of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so if you're enjoying this run and want to see more challenge videos like it, all it takes is one click. Alright, that's enough groveling for today. Let's get back to the video. I head north to the end of the city and run into Hugh, who decides to pick a fight with 4 people, then drags me into it when he realizes he's in over his head. After saving him from himself, I cross the bridge into Driftvale and... Hugh really needs to lay off the steroids. Thanks to a stranger in the Pokemon Center, I have enough red shards to teach Ice Punch to Sagat, which should really help against Clay and his ground types. I know I said Elesa required me to use a few brain cells, but Clay is the first gym leader that actually required me to think. His Krokorok has Intimidate, so I send in Ken to take it, then I swap into Sagat on the Bulldoze. He's not outspeeding anyone either way, so a speed drop isn't a problem. He gets hit with a Torment, which is actually quite annoying, but a Brick Break easily gets the KO and gets a Moxie boost. Sandslash comes in and hits a weak Fury Cutter, and an Ice Punch does over half. Because of Torment, I can't just go for another, and I can't use Brick Break because it would KO the Sandslash and I wouldn't be able to use it against his Excadrill. A Feint Attack puts it into heal range, and another Ice Punch gets it back below half and gets the freeze. Sadly, he instantly thaws out and hits a Crush Claw, and a Feint Attack brings him back into the red. Sagat is holding an Eviolite, so he's tanking these hits pretty well, but they're starting to add up. After a weak rollout, he gets the KO and another Moxie boost, and Clay sends in his Ace Excadrill. I don't have a safe switch, but Sagat should live any non-critical hit here, and Clay opts for a Rock Slide trying to get a flinch, but fails to do so, letting Sagat land a Brick Break that gets the KO. Now that I have access to the PWT, I can collect a ton of shards for the various move tutors, which will really come in handy before the next gym. After making it through Chargestone Cave, I arrive at Mistralton City, where our most intimidating opponent awaits. Mercifully, with the level cap up to 39, I'm able to evolve Balrog, Zangief, and Sagat before facing her. They're all just insurance policies though, as I decide to lead with the only team member not weak to flying type moves. Thanks to Swoobat's Unaware ability, I can't just set up Swords Dances to deal with it, but with the move tutor and Drift Veil, I was able to teach Ryu Thunder Punch, which takes out Swoobat in one shot thanks to a held magnet. She sends in Swanna next, which... what did you think was going to happen, lady? Last is Skarmory, and even with its high defense, Thunder Punch still does over half, meaning after a resisted Steel Wing, Ryu knocks her final bird out of the sky with one last Thunder Punch. At this point, I'm feeling invincible. If the flying type gym is no match for our strength, then the rest of the game should be no sweat, right? We hop on a flight over to Lentamos Town, and Bianca and I make our way through Reversal Mountain, and I arrive in Undella Town where I have another encounter. On nearby Route 14, I catch a Mienfoo that I named Chun-Li. I've basically never used a Mienshao in a Nuzlocke, so I'm excited to finally get the chance, and even more excited to see that she has a naughty plus attack minus special defense nature. I can't remember the last time I had such good nature and ability luck. For now, Chun-Li will be in the background because he can't evolve until after the next level cap, so he can sit back and watch how we do things around here as Hugh challenges us to a battle. I lead with Ryu the Bird Slayer against his Unpheasant, and because no one on the team can outspeed and one-shot it, I have to risk being crit with an Air Slash thanks to its Super Luck ability and held scope lens. Thankfully, no one told Hugh that, and he goes for a Detect and a Taunt instead, allowing Ryu to hit a couple of Thunder Punches and add another Skull to his collection. He has weird hobbies, don't judge him. Samurott comes in and knows revenge, so I swap to Zangief, but he goes for Slash instead. Thanks to farming more shards, I'm able to teach Zangief Thunder Punch as well, and after an Encore fail, she takes Samurott below half. She shrugs off a weak Aqua Jet and finishes it off with another Thunder Punch. Simisage is the last Mon and hits pretty hard with a Seed Bomb, but gets instantly demolished by an Ice Punch. It takes quite a bit of time to do, but I highly recommend farming shards at the PWT if you're going to try to Nuzlocke this game. Over on Route 13, I technically encounter another fighting type Pokemon, but not one that I'm actually allowed to use. Up ahead, Hugh is waiting in the streets of Lacunosa Town, clearly looking for trouble. Right on cue, Zinzalin walks up, and naturally Hugh lets his Roid Rage get the best of him once again and drags me into a fight. The real threat in this fight is actually the Grunt and his Golbat, who survives a Thunder Punch in the red but gets paralyzed. Meanwhile, after all of that tough talk, Hugh just goes for an Encore which does nothing. Thanks a lot, pal. He does make up for it with an Aqua Jet to KO the bat, and from there the rest of the battle is pretty much free. On the village bridge, an old man brags about his 999 win streak and challenges us to a battle. It doesn't go well for him. Excuse me, let me just get by you there. Thanks. The next gym leader is Drayden and his dragon types. I send out Zangief, who's been pre-burned to activate her Guts ability. Even though she's dreadfully slow, Dragon Tail has negative priority, so she outspeeds Druddigon and clobbers it with an Ice Punch. Flygon comes out and hits a pretty strong Earth Power, but gets absolutely smoked by a 4x super effective Ice Punch as well. I opted for the Shell Bell over Leftovers, so Zangief heals a decent amount before taking more burn damage. Last in is Haxorus, and I know he loves to be greedy and go for Dragon Dances, which is exactly what he does, and Zangief is able to get a clean sweep with another Ice Punch. Afterwards, Drayden invites me over to his house, and instead of asking reasonable questions like, why is this strange old man inviting me into his house alone, I just follow along without a care in the world. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? If you answered a floating pirate ship will shoot an ice cannon at the city, congratulations, you would be correct. For some reason, Drayden then sends his Haxorus out to try and break the ice. Do you not remember the battle we just had? Maybe it's time to put Grandpa in a home. Zinzalin is back for more humiliation because I guess it's his fetish or something. I'm not one to judge. Whatever floats your boat. No, seriously, how is that boat floating? After chasing off Team Plasma, I head through the marine tube and make it to Humalau City, the site of our final gym battle. Before taking on Marlon, I get a notification on my Rover app and this old lady hires me to walk her dog around for a bit. That reminds me, with the level cap at 51, I can now evolve Chun-Li into a Mienshao. The evolution comes just in time as he's ready to make his debut against Marlon. I need a way to break sturdy and try to prevent him from setting up a shell smash on Caracosta, and Chun-Li learns Fake Out, which is perfect. He manages to get a crit thanks to a held scope lens, then hits a drain punch that I thought would get the KO, but I must have miscalculated because he survives in the red and thankfully goes for a scald which doesn't crit or burn. That could have been a disaster. Marlon uses a hyper potion which he may as well have just used on Chun-Li because 2 drain punches get the KO and he's back to full HP as Wailord comes in. Another drain punch does just under half, but instead of going for a bounce he just goes for amnesia. Great idea boosting your special defense against my fighting team there, pal. Another drain punch just misses the KO, and now he goes for bounce, but we're ready for this as Chun-Li is able to avoid the attack using detect. Then a U-turn gets the KO and a clean swap into Sagat in order to deal with his Jellicent. A Scald does decent damage and unfortunately gets the burn, so now Crunch does less than half. Even with leftovers recovery, I have to switch, so I send in Zangief who also gets hit by a Scald but doesn't get burned. I don't have much of a choice but to stay in and risk a crit, but not only do we avoid the crit, but the burn activates Zangief's Guts ability for a complete overkill Thunder Punch that earns us our 8th and final badge. With all 8 gyms conquered, my team of fighters have proven themselves to be the strongest bunch in the region. The only thing I have left to do is take on the Elite Four, but first I have to help Hugh deal with Team Plasma, and by help him, I mean do almost everything myself. I had to catch a Pelipper for HM, so I can only rock 5 team members for this part of the run. I get to the seaside cave and find a pervert waiting around for people to come test his rock hard will.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
After finding Team Plasma's ship and defeating the Grunts, there's yet another battle with Zinzalin, but he honestly just needs to give up already. The ship once again flies off, so now I have to make my way back to the giant chasm, but I can deposit my HM Mon and go back to having a full team. Rude then hands me Max Revives, which is basically the Nuzlocke equivalent of getting socks as a gift for the holidays as a kid. In fact, it's worse than socks. Socks are useful. Zinzalin gets clocked one final time, which brings me to the battle with Colress. Once again, I lead with Chun-Li in order to use Fake Out to break sturdy, then a Drain Punch gets the KO on Magneton. He sends in Magnezone next, so I scout out a Thunder Wave with Detect, then U-turn to get the switch into Ken, who's holding a Cherry Berry. A close combat takes out the Magnet and Beheeyem comes in, so I swap into Sagat on a Psychic. Beheeyem lives a crunch on a Sliver, but Energy Ball doesn't do much damage. He wastes a turn using a full restore, but this time Sagat gets the range and gets the KO with a crunch. Kling Klang comes in and goes for Shift Gears, and even with the Moxie boost, survives in the red after a Brick Break. There is no one on the team I can safely send in, so I just need to hope he doesn't get a crit with Giga Impact. And he doesn't, so Sagat is able to finish it off with another Brick Break. Last is his Metang, but Sagat walls it entirely. Somehow he outspeeds and goes for a crunch, which forces Colress to go for an agility. Metang lands a weak Meteor Mash, then goes down to another crunch, bringing an end to Colress's part of the story. I finally find the man who's responsible for making me do all of this extra stuff. After defeating the Shadow Triad, I chase Ghetsis into a cave and prepare for what will certainly be the most difficult battle of the run so far. And I'm not even counting the part where he literally tries to impale me with icicles. The trick here is I have to lead with a Pokemon that can deal with both this mutant monstrosity of a Pokemon and Ghetsis lead Kofagrigus. I decide to give that job to Chun-Li. No one on the team can survive 2 hits or a crit from Fusion Bolt, so I'm going to need him to hang on for dear life. Or land a critical hit thanks to a held scope lens. The funny part is, I only gave him that item because I couldn't figure out anything else that was worth using. I mean, just as I had planned. A calculated move. Naturally, Ghetsis is pissed off about an ill-timed critical hit. We've all been there, buddy. I go for Detect in order to scout out what I'm hoping is a Toxic, which it is, so a U-turn sends in Ryu, who is immune. This allows me to set up a Swords Dance as Kofagrigus hits a Psychic that unfortunately gets a special defense drop. I need to set up one more Swords Dance, so I go for it and Ryu hangs on with just 29 HP before the Citrus Berry heal. I did have a backup plan in case I wasn't able to fully set up, but thankfully I can stick with Plan A, which is called Operation Ryu Sweeps the entire team. A Shadow Claw knocks out Kofagrigus, then Seismitoad goes down to a Drain Punch while healing Ryu all the way back up to full. A Bulldoze takes out Drapion, a Drain Punch takes out Electros, and his Toxicroak falls to a Bulldoze. And his Ace Hydreigon gets taken down by another Drain Punch. I love Lucario. With Team Plasma finally out of the way, I can catch a few more fighters in Akuma the Sawk and E Honda the Throw. I've ascended to the top of the mountain in Victory Road, but one final obstacle stands between me and the Elite Four. Hugh. This battle is pretty tricky as his Super Luck on Pheasant threatens to KO anyone and outspeeds all of the team members that could get an Oko. I decide my best bet is once again leading with Chun-Li for a fake out, then a Detect to scout out a Swagger. A U-turn crit lets me swap into Ryu, who's holding a Person Berry in anticipation of another Swagger, but instead the stupid bird hits an Aerial Ace. Thankfully it didn't crit, but I was really counting on that attack boost from Swagger. A Drain Punch heals Ryu a bit and takes out the bird, but now Bouffalant comes in and it knows Earthquake, so I have to swap to Ken, who easily shrugs it off. He's able to get the KO with a close combat on the following turn, and that brings in Samurott. I don't really have a great switch here, so I decide to do some chip damage with Brick Break and hope to avoid yet another crit, which I do, but Ken still gets hit pretty hard. I send in Sagat, who tanks an Ice Beam, and I'm hoping this baits out a revenge as I swap back into Chun-Li, and it does. Fake Out chips away a little more and I scout out a Surf, then I opt to swap back into Sagat instead of using U-turn to avoid putting the Samurott into heal range. I once again send Chun-Li back in on another revenge, then a Fake Out and a Drain Punch are enough to get the KO. This would have all been a lot easier if I just got that attack boost on Ryu. Last is Simisage, and after scouting an Energy Ball, a super effective U-turn almost gets the KO as I swap into Ryu. Hugh uses a Max Potion, but he's too late, as a couple of Drain Punches take out his monkey. He carries on Rude's legacy of giving me a gift that I can't use. Now I turn my focus to the Elite Four. I decide not to add either of the new fighters to the team and stick with what's worked so far. We made it all the way here without any deaths, and I intend to keep it that way. I pre-burned Zangief and reworked the movesets. Let's do this. One of the things that I love about this game is I can choose the order I want to fight the Elite Four members, and I decide to start with Shauntal. I lead with Ryu, who's now a full-fledged special attacker, and start setting up Calm Minds. The special defense boosts allow him to easily shrug off a few psychics, and at +2, Operation Ryu Sweeps the entire team is underway once again. You'll notice that I have an EXP share on Balrog, which in hindsight should have been on Ken, but I wanted to do my best to remain under level 59 for the champion, even though technically it isn't part of my rules. After sweeping through Shauntal, I head over to Grimsley and his dark types, and, well, he's also about to find out about Operation Ryu Sweeps the entire team. Thanks to Inner Focus, Ryu is able to get off a Calm Mind through the Fake Out, and this time he only needs one, as Expert Belt boosted Aura Spheres rip through Grimsley's team like a hot knife through butter. The third member is Marshal, and this one is personal. I send in Zangief, who gets hit by a Storm Throw and sets up a Bulk Up. A second Storm Throw brings her below half, but a Drain Punch gets a clean KO and heals her almost back to full. Mienshao comes in next, and I'm expecting a bounce, so I go for a Bulk Up knowing we don't outspeed, but instead he lands a high jump kick which does a ton of damage. Now if he goes for a bounce on the next turn, there's nothing I can do about it. Well played, Marshal. I have to go for Drain Punch and hope he doesn't click bounce, and with a miracle, it's another high jump kick which doesn't crit, and Zangief is able to hang on in the red and land a Drain Punch, then heal herself back up to almost half. Next is his own Conkeldurr. I go for Drain Punch, but he outspeeds and goes for a Bulk Up.
He's totally copying me!
Zangief hits a Drain Punch, but he survives in the red thanks to the defense boost. A Facade would have gotten the KO, but I needed the HP recovery. At least I thought I did, but he lands a critical hit Hammer Arm which takes out Zangief. Absolutely brutal. Our first death of the run, and Zangief was crucial to my initial plans against Iris. I send in Ryu to avenge our fallen friend with a Psychic, and Marshal brings out Sawk. Thanks to Sturdy, I can't just knock it out with another Psychic, so I swap into Chun-Li on a Brick Break hoping to avoid another crit, which he does. A Fake Out breaks Sturdy, then a Detect scouts out another Brick Break. A U-turn brings Sawk to about half as Ken comes in and easily takes the hit. From here, a close combat is enough to get the KO. We may have emerged victorious, but at what cost? Is it really worth being crowned the best fighting type trainer in the region if it comes at the expense of my friends? Is adoration really the most important thing in life? Or is it the connections we make in the limited time we have here? After properly mourning the loss of our friend, we head into the final room to take on the biggest threat of the Elite Four, Caitlyn. I lead with Ken against Musharna to set up a Swords Dance, but thanks to its bulk, a Night Slash won't be enough to get the KO. I can't afford to try and set up another one and risk letting her set up a Reflect, so I have to to take a risk. Thankfully, Ken manages to not miss his Mega Horn. He falls asleep to the yawn, but a Chesto Berry wakes him up. A Night Slash is able to take down Sigilif, and another takes out Reuniclus. Last is her Gothitelle, who manages to survive a Night Slash with a sliver of HP, then retaliates with a Psychic that thankfully doesn't crit. Ken gets the KO on the following turn, and with that, we've defeated the Elite Four. All that's left now is the champion. It took a bit to rework my strategy now that Zangief is no longer with us. I head up the steps just like Rocky. At the top, Iris awaits. I lead with Chun-Li one final time, and a fake out makes it so Drain Punch is a guaranteed KO on the following turn on her Hydreigon. I was hoping she would send out Archeops second, but instead she sends in Druddigon, which is a bit of an issue. I used a tech to scout out a Focus Blast, so I hit a U-turn and swap into Ken, who easily tanks another one. Ken manages to avoid being crit by a Flamethrower, then a close combat takes out Druddigon. Now she decides to send in Archops, and Ken doesn't outspeed. There is no one on the team that can take an Acrobatics from this thing, so sadly, Ken's time in this world has come to an end. I click Close Combat one last time, and Ken goes down. Rest easy, my friend. I do get to send in Chun-Li, which was my original plan to deal with this thing all along. Since he can outspeed, he can get it into Defeatus, which should allow him to survive a hit. A Fake Out and a Drain Punch bring it low, but an Acrobatics still gets the KO anyways. According to my calcs, that only had a 6.3% chance to get the KO. Not unfathomable, but still pretty unlucky. If my plans weren't ruined before, they're in shambles now. Ryu is the only one I can send in here, and he's able to clean up with an Aura Sphere. We get a moment to breathe as Iris sends in Aggron, who also goes down to an Aura Sphere, but now she sends in her Ace Haxorus. I can't afford to switch and give it a free turn, so sadly, I came to the conclusion that Ryu too must die. He fires off an Aura Sphere to bring it low, and then goes down to an Earthquake. It's a bloodbath. I send in Sagat, who's able to shrug off an Earthquake and avenge his fallen friends with an Ice Punch. Last up is her Lapras, who outspeeds, but thankfully misses her Sing. At this point, I can't lose, but that would have been pretty annoying. Balrog could outspeed and get the Oko with a superpower, but that won't be necessary, as Sagat survives an Ice Beam and lands a Thunder Punch to take out the Lapras. And with that, we've done it. In spite of all of the carnage at the end, this run was a lot of fun. I was really hoping for a deathless run though. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like. It really helps out a lot. If you want to see more content like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll smell you later.